Hi, everyone, and welcome to Me, You, and Who. Infertility is an emotional roller coaster filled with both heartbreak and hope. Today, I'm honored to share the story of someone who has not only walked this path, but has dedicated herself to helping others navigate it with honesty, support, and empowerment. Victoria joins me to share her deeply personal experience with endometriosis, infertility, and the decision to use donor eggs to grow her family. But her story doesn't end there. She took her struggles and turned them into a mission, creating Infertility Unfiltered, a thriving community with support groups for every stage of the infertility journey. She also founded Expecting Anything, a resource hub focused on normalizing donor egg conception, and is the author for resources like Why I'm Glad My Eggs Didn't Work, and more recently, a children's book called Our Hearts Match that celebrates the many ways families are created and helps young children embrace the beauty of donor conception. For those who are in the process of discerning or struggling with the idea of using donor eggs, Victoria's insights provide a sense of comfort, clarity, and validation. She understands the fears, the grief, and the questions that come with this path, and she's passionate about helping others embrace the beauty of family building in new and unexpected ways. Victoria's story is a testament to resilience, purpose, and the power of community. If you've ever felt alone in your fertility journey or are wrestling with what it means to grow your family in a non traditional way, this episode is for you. You are seen, heard, and never without hope. I can't wait for you to be part of this conversation. Enjoy. Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all of the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day. Victoria, welcome. I am so excited that you are here. Thanks so much for doing this.
Of course. Happy to tell my story anytime. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So for those who don't know, you are Victoria, the founder of Infertility Unfiltered, which is, I feel like the best way to describe it is it's a support community. But then you also have Expect the Unexpected, and you're an author too. But before we even get to all of these things and, just can you share your story and how, just the world of infertility kind of became a part of you and your story?
Yeah, definitely. So I had stage 3 endometriosis, and
Mm,
looking back to even like college years, I had it then too. I just didn't
yeah.
know. And
I feel
so
like that's just the story of women's health in general, right?
it is. It is sadly
Yeah.
very sad. It's true. That's why I talk so openly about it. I'm like, young women, young girls, like if you have long painful periods, something's not right. Like it shouldn't feel like that.
Yeah.
And so I had seen many, gynecologists, you could call them, in college and so forth. And no one even cared to find out why my period
Mm,
was so painful. I mean, it was like debilitating pain, curled over, like nauseous, like all the things, for about
yeah.
2 weeks long. So I would say to you, like, that's probably when my journey started. I didn't know that at the time. When I got married and at 29, we started trying right away. And it probably took us 3 years before we went to the doctor, because I was just like, it's going to happen. Like, maybe we're just not
Mm,
doing it right. Legs in the air, like, egg white, stuff, like
yeah, absolutely. We're just doing all of the things.
all the things. And so I finally went in for a fertility workup. I want to say it was like 33, 32. I don't know.
Hmm.
And they were like, "Oh, yeah, so like your levels are like more like someone in their late 40s or early 50s." And I was like, "I'm 32. What do you mean?"
Whoa. Yeah.
And so that was like a real, reality check because I just kept thinking, I'm not old,
Yeah.
and, I like knew that like my pap smears and all that were all normal. I just thought, well, I can have a baby.
Yeah.
So I got thrown into the world of TTC, if you will. Trying to
Yes.
conceive for those that don't know that crazy lingo that exists in this community. And I learned a lot. I tried a lot of things. I did IUIs and IVFs, gosh, probably 10 times. I mean, so
Mm,
many times.
yeah.
And my issue was always not getting enough eggs. And I'll never forget like the last IVF retrieval that I did. I only had 2 eggs, like, and it was like our Hail Mary because every time we'd only get one to grow. And when we got 2, my doctor was like, let's do it. You got 2. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that seems crazy, only 2. But like I was, in my 30s, thinking this could be my only chance.
Yeah.
They say you only need one, right?
Right. Sure. Sure.
And so we did it. And unfortunately, both eggs were just not, neither of them fertilized. One of them was like,
Mm.
I remember saying it was like black in color. It was
Oh.
so bad. Like I remember thinking, yeah, my eggs are rotten. I have rotten eggs.
Oh.
Um, and so then I had to sit down with my doctor. And this was after like the endometriosis diagnosis. And I had had the surgery to remove it. And I had done the Lupron and all the things.
I was
And
going to say, you have like all of this journey before you even get to the IVF process. It's like, we get like this, hey, your body's basically like acting like it's 50. And then after, like you said, you've had this just kind of debilitating normalcy, if you will.
right,
And then we get to the like, and now I want to try and have a baby and all of the things through that.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that retrieval, I just like in the back of my mind, I was like, that was my last chance. Like, I don't, what am I
Mm.
going to do? And I just started Googling and learned about egg donation. I didn't tell anyone, not even my husband. I was just like, I'm just spiraling here and trying
Yeah.
to find a plan B. Like, I just knew I
Yeah.
couldn't just not be a mom. So I was like, I got to figure out another option. So again, didn't say it to anyone. We had that like meeting with the doctor, like the sit down
Mm-hmm.
in the office with my clothes on, like the like serious meeting
Sure.
and my husband. And she said, have you thought about donor eggs? And before I could even answer, my husband said, what? No. And I was like,
Whoa.
what? Why? No, why no? And he was like, I want to
Yeah.
have a baby with you. Like I married
Mhm.
you. And I was like, but you would still be having a baby with me. And he's like, are you, what? Is this something you want to do? And I was like, I don't know, but I think we should hear her out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the doctor shared many stories of other patients and really beautiful, like similarities even between the mother and child via egg donor, like through
Mhm.
epigenetics. And like she was like this real big epigenetics advocate and had spoken on panels and so forth. And
Yeah.
I will say at the time, the epigenetics is what I hung on to. Like to me, that was like, okay, and if people don't know what epigenetics is, it's the idea of it epi on top of genetics, right?
Right. Right.
So it's your environment and the things that you can do to influence the outcome. Genetics, of course, are influencing the outcome, but there's also nurture. It's not nurture versus nature; it's nurture and nature.
There you go. Yeah.
And I've made good friends with an epigenetic scientist. I geek out way too.
Well, whenever you get thrown into this world, I think you said it beautifully, and we'll get to it. It was your, I think it's like the first page of your survival guide. It's like, welcome to infertility. This is your second job. Like
Yeah,
you just learn
yeah,
all about it.
yeah. Yep, it is. It is. You are now CEO, and you can hire
Yes.
people and fire people, and so anyway, so that is what I think I initially, because I was devastated. I mean, it was like the worst,
Yeah.
just sucker punch of my life, and I thought, gosh, like what? Like you just told me someone died in that moment. Like you just
Mm.
killed that baby that I had a face and a name and a room in my home for
Yeah.
is now gone, dead. Right. Like I hate to
Yeah.
be that dark, but that's what it feels like. And I think a lot of doctors don't understand that. I
What do
recently,
you mean by that?
so like when they're delivering this news, like I'll give you an example. So I just spoke on this panel and in front of a bunch of doctors to give
Yeah.
the patient perspective. And I was mind blown that they were like, what do you mean genetic grief? I've never heard it talked about that way. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Sorry for cursing. I was like, what do you mean you've never heard it that
Yeah.
way? And so I'm sitting there telling these doctors, like, you guys, like, when you guys tell us that we have to use another woman's eggs to become pregnant, someone is dying in that moment. Someone just died. Like, the most
Mm-hmm.
important, I'm gonna cry. The most important thing or person in your life at that time just died. Um,
Mm.
and I'm not
Well,
crying
it's
because I
a
miss that baby. I'm crying because it's like such a traumatic experience. It's trauma,
yeah. It's a
you know?
vision, right? I mean, from the time I feel like from the time you're a little girl and you have these dreams of being a mom, you
Yep.
have a vision of what that looks like. And it's a vision that you've held on to. Like you said, you were
Yeah.
29 whenever you started trying to have a baby. So you've
Yeah.
held on to this
Yeah.
vision for 3 decades,
Yeah.
went through, and then not only went through, like, had that vision, but then you go through this journey, and a traumatic journey and a
Yeah.
physical journey. And
Yeah.
then, yes, I think there are two ways about it from a doctor's perspective, right? It's like, okay, this didn't work, but look, we have this other alternative, which
Right.
is great and beautiful. But
Right.
two things can exist at once of you have
Right.
this hope, but then you also have to, like you said, I have to grieve this idea, this
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
this, like you said, this death of this possibility.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And and so I think in that moment, my husband was like, he had never like, I mean, most people have never heard of it, right? Like,
Sure.
I hadn't even really, I mean, you never see it in a movie, on a TV show, celebrities
Mm-hmm.
aren't talking about it. So it's
Yeah.
like this really secretive world that no one knows anything about. And so you start to make these assumptions about what this person means to your family and all these other really dark thoughts. And so I think what I'm trying to say is I wish more doctors were more sensitive to what happens in that exact moment when you deliver that news, and allow
Mm-hmm.
space for that person to feel that grief, because it is very heavy. And like I said, it is trauma. And so there
Mm-hmm.
needs to be an emotional support system to guide someone through that time, as well as the person's partner, if there is one.
Yeah, it sounds like, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. So you were not only is your doctor, so you're sitting down, and I almost like envision, like, you're like a kid in school and you get called into the principal's office. Like, it
Yeah.
feels like one of those,
Yeah.
like, scary meetings, right?
Yep.
And you're sitting down, you already are, just upset. I mean, you're just already upset, right?
Yeah.
And then, but then for you, like you said, you had kind of Googled and, like, kind of had gotten started on, like, thinking about that.
Right.
And then your husband's hearing it for the first time. How
Yeah.
did you guys, I mean, I know eventually you said, like, let's just hear her out, but then from that moment, how did you two as a couple kind of navigate just that choice and what that looked like for you?
It was a lot of education. It was
Mm-hmm.
just like, "Hey, read this. Hey, listen to this,"
Yeah.
and just talking about it, and, like, starting to, like, dip our toe and look at, like, the agency, like, the profiles of these egg donors,
Yeah.
which that was, like, super uncomfortable and creepy and weird. And just, we made the decision that, like, I would do that and he would not, and I would come back and say, "This is who I'd like to pick," and he'd say, "Okay," and it was just not a joint effort, which every couple does that differently. That's just what we're told.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and so you're right. So it's this very, like, big moment of, like, this is a shift. Are we willing to make this shift?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we are, but we're not ready yet. What's it going to take to get us ready?
Mm-hmm.
And with no one to look at. I mean, remember, this was like 10 plus years ago. I
Yeah.
had no one to look at to say, "Oh, well, she did it and she's okay," or "Her family looks
Mm-hmm.
normal."
Sure.
Um, so I had to go off of my doctor's stories. I literally was like, "Tell me more."
Yeah.
And literally, I took everything from her. I was like, "Give me all the patient stories you've heard and you've seen, and tell me, and let me ingest those, because that's my only hope right now."
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's why I'm so vocal about it now, is because I'm like, I want to show people that it can be okay, that it can be more than
Yeah.
okay, and that,
Yeah.
like, I really believe if you can see it, you can be it. And I think I wish more
Mhm.
people would be it, so
Yeah.
that others can see it, because it's like, it's not fair to have to walk this alone in this, like, dark shadow of shame. There shouldn't be shame around this, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, the infertility world, I feel like, I mean, it can feel so lonely.
Yeah,
despite the fact that it's like 1 in 6 that experience infertility, it feels like you're the only one sometimes.
totally.
If people aren't being vocal, like you said,
Yeah.
or not willing to share their story, or and a lot of times it is because they feel shame or there's taboo around the subject, and
Mhm.
just all of that. So yeah, I love how vocal you're being now, and it makes me so sad that at the time you didn't have the what you've created now of like, no, you guys, look, there's a whole big world out there and it's not just you in it.
Right, right, exactly. That's why I did it, because I was like, it was a selfish thing too, because like I needed it, It's like
Yeah.
maybe I can help some other people, but I need to help myself right now. And if so, I literally just went public to the world and said, "Here's my story. Does anyone know anything about? Can anyone relate?" And I got
Yeah.
messages, and I was like, "Oh, thank God, these people saved me." And I just
Yeah.
continued to talk about it because it was my healing journey. And that was helping me. Like healing out loud in front of other people was like the way it worked for me for whatever crazy.
Yeah. No, for sure. So focusing on that, going from that moment of trauma, hey, if you're going to be a mom, this is probably the path that we're going to need to, go down next, to you know celebration almost. And
Yeah.
I shouldn't say almost, but yeah, I would probably say the best way to describe it is celebration. I mean, what the name of one of your books is, I'm glad, or what is it, I'm glad my eggs didn't work,
Why,
or
why I'm glad
yeah,
my work.
why, yeah, exactly. What was that? You kind of already dabbled in it, but how was that healing journey? What were some of the things that you were doing, and what was the kind of that turning point to go from like, okay, kind of tiptoe, like, all right, husband, this is who we're going to use, as our egg donor, and going through that process to where you are now? And
Uh,
spoiler alert, it ended beautifully and you have two beautiful children. But yeah, how was kind of that aspect of the journey?
I will say for me, it took a very long time, and I know some
Yeah.
people it can take a much shorter time. So I don't want people to be like discouraged by this. But I'll give you a timeline. So from the moment I found out, let's call it 33, maybe is when I understood I needed egg donation. 34, maybe. I became pregnant at 38. So and it took me not only a while to finally decide to do it. But then when we
Mm-hmm.
finally did decide to do it, our first egg donor, unfortunately, was unsuccessful.
Mm.
So that set us back, not only in our timeline, but also in the trauma and
Yeah.
I'm not meant to be a mom, or this is like my destiny. Like I'm just doomed, I'm cursed.
Mm.
And like this was my Hail Mary, and also the financial setbacks, like we had
Yeah.
taken out, gosh, 401ks, credit cards, like a home equity line on our house, like all the things to do something that like then just crushed again.
Mm-hmm.
Was really freaking hard. So, but I do think that like everything is for us, like I'm not saying like
Mm.
this all happens for a reason and like you're meant to go through this hell, no one
Yeah.
deserves that. No one deserves that. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think we can look at situations and find purpose and find learnings and recognize that like they did teach us something really big. um
Mm-hmm.
and turn it around. And I think once you can start to, so I'm getting to answer your question, I think
No,
once you
yeah.
find that shift, it's almost like, and I don't need to be toxic positivity or whatever, but it's almost like it's leaning towards gratitude,
Yeah.
and even it's just a little bit, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this fucking sucks, but I get a chance to be pregnant, you
Mm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise I wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Or, um, this is really hard and expensive and terrible and all the things, but I could be a mom. And that's really my end goal. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah.
and, and it's just like little by little, like sort of like reframing, and shifting, like putting on a different set of glasses, like, okay, I'm going to look at this differently.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think it also takes a lot of inner work around like, what does being a mother really mean to you, or what does
Mm.
family really mean to you, what does family look
Mm.
like for you?
Yeah.
Because I think if you're born into a family that is of a certain way, a lot of times that's like in our subconscious, like that's our belief system,
Sure, that's
right?
what we see.
That's what
Yeah,
we see.
that's what you're exposed to.
Right. And even
Yeah.
like I think about the small town that I grew up in, like I didn't, of course, know anyone that was donor conceived. I knew one kid that was adopted, only one.
Uh-huh.
And that was it, and I didn't know any single mom family. Like I literally was exposed to just your typical standard traditional family makeup,
Sure.
right? To me, that
Yeah.
was it. So when I was hit with this like alternative option, it was hard for me to think about my family being equal to those families in a way,
Mm.
which now I know for sure we're equal. Like there's no question, but again, it's a belief system. It's almost like a rewiring of your brain that has to
Mm.
happen. And to rewire it, you have to educate yourself. You have to talk about it. You have to get the feelings out. You have to go to therapy. You have to meet other people that have done it.
Yeah.
Um, you have to hear stories. Like it's all of that. And for some people, that can be done very quickly, and some
Mm-hmm.
people it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Um, I know a woman, she's a good friend of mine. I think in a year, she made the decision and got pregnant, and she's good. She also
Yeah.
did this recently where there are more
Mm-hmm.
resources, right? She also has
Mm-hmm.
been through my support groups and so forth. And I just saw her move through it very quickly because she was like, I want to be a mom. I want to be a mom,
Yeah.
and I'm going to immerse myself, and I'm going to educate myself, and I'm going to change my brain and rewire and have a different perspective. And she did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think it's unique to the person. But to answer your question, it was hard. It was really hard, and it took a long
Yeah.
time, and a lot of really deep sadness and anger and jealousy and anxiety. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot, I lost friendships. I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was also kind of beautiful. Like like
Mm.
it was this. I like to use the word brutiful. It's like brutal and beautiful.
I love that. I love that. Well, I mean, there can be beauty in tragedy, and I think and exactly to your point, have you have done the work and are supporting the work of rewiring your brain. And I completely agree with you with this idea of like toxic positivity, and I think that's sometimes what's so hard for people who don't necessarily understand infertility is like, well, but look, like you found a solution, so I don't understand why there's still a problem,
Right.
like
Right.
both of these things can exist simultaneously. And exactly like you said, putting on a different set of glasses does not negate the fact that you can't see out of the other set.
Right.
It's
Totally.
just giving
Totally.
yourself a reprieve and
Yep.
and looking at it from all of those angles. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. And again, yes, to your point, egg donation, yes, is a solution. How you get there is so unique to the
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
You can have it where it takes 4 years before we get pregnant versus a year and we have a baby. So, I mean, and both journeys are beautiful, but everybody's got to do it at their own pace, and all of that should be loved and celebrated.
And then if you have a partner, like what's their grief cycle, and how do you guys
Yeah.
get together on the same timeline and get there. So it's a lot, and then you've got like
Yeah.
family, like your parents maybe, or your sister or your brother, like trying to support you, and they're also like trying to figure out how all this works, and then you're like, oh, I got to educate them too, like
It's
it can
exhausting.
yeah, exactly. That's the greatest way to put it. It's exhausting.
Yes, it's exhausting. So, fast forward to you did end up having a another egg donor. You were able to have your daughter,
Yeah.
and then which is beautiful, and congratulations.
Thank
And how was you kind of touched on a little bit, what was that like to go from this, you know basically you're just constantly getting bad news to all of a sudden now we're here and like there's a positive pregnancy test, or even you could go back to, hey, your egg donor was successful, like just hearing that news.
Yeah. 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 I know.
Yeah.
Truly, when we got the embryos, I was like, what? We have embryos? Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. Oh my gosh. But then you start to think, okay, well, this was a young, healthy, fertile woman. So like those embryos equal babies, right? So then you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, well, it was the eggs that was the problem. So I did get pregnant on the first try with those embryos with my
Yeah.
daughter, my 6-year-old, who is the love of my life. She's my like
Mm.
soulmate in every sense of the word. Um,
Yes.
and then we had 2 other embryos from that donor that I tried to conceive a sibling for her
Mhm.
with, and those did not work. And so that's, I actually think that grief was like even more complicated than the initial because I felt like I lost something for her, the person I love the
Mm.
most. Like I felt like I let her down because she kept asking me for a baby brother. She's like, I really want a baby brother. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm trying. And
Mm.
we actually thought like that was it. And I think that was like the hardest, like, okay, well, we're a 1 kid family. Like this is where it ends. And it was really sad because I felt like that wasn't the end, but I was like, I'm out of
Mhm.
eggs. We can't afford to start over and do all of this. And I was 41, I think, at the time.
Mhm.
And my daughter, I'll never forget, I tell this story all the time. We're like in the hallway. I just given her a bath, and we're in the hallway, and she goes, Mama, is there a baby in your belly? And I said, No, honey, there's not. She said, Well, when is there going to be? And I said, I've been
Mm.
trying really, really hard, but I'm all out of eggs. Um, and she goes, We'll just get new eggs. And I said, Well, I can't just go to Trader Joe's and get new eggs. Like it's not. I literally said that to her, and she goes, Well, okay, well, where do you have to go? And I said, Well, it costs a lot of money and it's really hard. And she goes, and she grabbed me by the shoulder. She goes, You can do hard things. I know. I'm gonna cry. And I was like, Yep, yep, I can. 'Cause that's
Mm.
something I say to her all the time. That's what I mean. She's like my little bestie, my little soulmate. She like always
Yeah.
knows what to say. And I said, okay. And I thought about it. And we had done a fresh donor cycle with her
Mhm.
donor. And I thought, well, what if we did frozen? Like it is much more affordable. It's faster. Um, and I knew I wanted an open relationship. And I thought I've heard of some places doing that now.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a couple of egg banks and found one that said, yeah, we're willing to do an open relationship
Mhm.
with frozen eggs. And we did it. We did it. And
Yeah.
um, thanks to that egg donor, we have an open relationship. Her name is Chloe. Um,
Mm.
she gave us out of 6, I think we got 6 frozen eggs, and we got um, 2 healthy embryos. And one is my son, who's now 2 years old.
Mm.
And so my children are half genetically related, but they're not
Yeah.
at all half brother and sister. Like they know,
Uh-huh.
but we don't use that word because they don't have half of each other. You know what I mean? Like they are full.
Mm.
They have the same mom and dad. They live in the same house. They're growing up together. There's no half anything, right? And
Yeah.
if we were to talk
Yeah.
about that, like neither of them are genetically related to me, like zero. So what do you call me? Like the zero mom? No. Like, we don't do that kind of math in this house. Just
No, no.
um, but yeah, so it was like this just crazy. I was like, are we really starting over? I'm like in my 40s and we're doing this whole thing over again. Like, what are we
Yeah.
crazy? But it was because of that little 6-year-old who at the time was four and a
Mm.
half, by the way.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and she just, or 4, not even. Yeah, she was like 4, I think, 3.5, maybe. I don't know.
That's a wise 4-year-old.
She's very, that girl is old soul. She is an old soul, like big time.
Mm.
And I still tell her that story because like when she's like looking at her brother, like, I hate you, and I'm like, do you remember? You
Yeah,
told me him.
Miss Ma'am.
Like, she's like, well, I love him. He's just annoying me right now. I'm like, okay.
Yep, yep. And there we go. Both things can
Yep.
exist simultaneous.
Yep. Exactly. Totally. Yep.
Yes. Oh my gosh, but what a roller coaster, and what a, I mean, and again, just so many things to navigate all simultaneously of like, oh gosh, we're doing this again. Grappling with, I mean, you're right. They're not, they are full brother sister,
Yeah.
but still needing to, I shouldn't say but, alongside the fact that thinking about, oh, there is that genetic piece, and you did have those embryos and the grief that went with that, and working through that moment to get to this frozen option, to get to where you are. I mean, all of that is happening all at once.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, everybody's experiencing this so uniquely, but not a lot of people are talking about
Right. Right.
it.
So true.
Yeah. What was I mean, she was 4 at that time, so obviously, a different time, but even still, what was your support system during that time?
Um, well, I had my support group that I
You
lead.
did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah. So that was, even though I'm like the group instructor, like, cause, and
Mhm.
I'm not teaching, I bring in experts. I'm just like the facilitator. So
Yeah.
I bring in doctors, therapists, the epigenetic scientist guy, like they
Yes.
all like come in and speak. And also I bring in a lot of donor conceived people to give their perspectives because I think that's really
Mhm.
powerful and important.
Yeah.
So like even though like I'm the facilitator, I'm still healing through all of this. Like I'm learning every
Mhm.
time we do it. I'm listening to these other women's stories going, "Oh my god, like yes, thank you for that inspiration."
Yeah.
And I remember there were times like I almost canceled because I'm like I'm so depressed right now. I am so sad and
Mm.
I would still do it. And I'd say, "Guys, I'm here. I'm not doing that great, but this is real life and y'all know that,
Yeah.
and we'd get through it together and they'd support me and I'd support them and it was rough. But
Mm.
I think it was different in the support that I had then versus the first time because I knew more,
Yeah.
and the grief wasn't about genetic grief. It was about, am I going to have this baby that I want so badly? I actually got
Mm.
pregnant like spontaneously as I was prepping for a mock cycle, and they turned me away because I was pregnant. I ended up miscarrying.
Mm.
But at 40, like I said, 1 years old, pregnant for the first time with my own eggs, like what,
Yeah.
and but I was
Again,
actually,
that roller coaster.
I know, but I was actually mad about it because I knew, I mean, this is pretty dark, but I knew it wasn't gonna be a viable pregnancy. So I was like, this is getting in my way. You know what I mean? Like I am
Mm.
trying to get pregnant and I know this baby isn't going to stay and I need to do my transfer,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I still believe that was like some crazy like spiritual pregnancy, because after I miscarried, it was that and I got COVID and then I like everything was just shit hitting the fan and I went in and my doctor was like, your hormone, I've never seen you look so good. She was just like, your body is ready to go. This is the time. We got to seize the day. And the
Yeah.
embryo we used, my son, was a test embryo because he was inconclusive, even though it was like a grade A, B, or whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it didn't have a sex attached to it. Like it was just, they didn't get the right cells to call it, a genetically normal embryo.
Mhm.
That was our
Mhm.
practice round. We are like, well, let's do it. We still have this other one in the bank that's, tested in all the things.
Yeah.
And here he is, So it's like
Mm.
all of it was, I went on this crazy spiritual woo woo journey and all of this. And psychic, like the psychic was like, you're going to have a boy and he's going to be, at this specific time. And it can't be, she kept saying about like his due date. It had to be February, March. And I was like, and it literally all happened the way, I mean,
That is wild.
it's crazy. And I remember looking at my doctor and I said, the psychic says it's a boy. And she knew the gender of the other one because we didn't want to know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she goes, huh, interesting. Okay. And I was like, what does that mean? And
Yeah.
lo and behold, she's probably thinking maybe we should do the other one because I know for sure that one's a boy, like, because that was also a
Oh.
boy.
Yeah.
Um, Now I know that. But anyway, it ended up working, it was just
Just
crazy.
amazing. Just amazing. I mean, really, like just all of the things that can happen on a journey like this. And, and again, I love the fact, to your point, the support was so different during that time
Yeah.
and gave you this. I loved the fact that you were just so honest, right? Like, I'm showing up. I can't pour out, but I'm showing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and that really does make a difference when you're going through, all of those things. We've kind of dabbled in it and we've, teased and whatnot, but let's get into the nitty gritty. What exactly is Infertility Unfiltered? Why did you, I mean, we kind of have already said the why, but like what really got you started in creating something like Infertility Unfiltered?
So it was when I was my daughter was like 3 months old or 4 months old, I forget. I was in this like support group for new moms. It was called the New Mom
Yeah.
School. It's still a great, I send a lot of people there. I'm like, it's great. It's like you get everything you need. They bring in experts similar to what we do. And I said to the founder, like the third weekend or something, I said, women who want to become moms need this stuff too. Like we need education. We need
Mm.
to sit in circles and cry. Like we need
Yes.
all of this. And she said, I totally agree. You should do it. I'll give you my space. And I was like, what? She was like, I won't charge you. Just do it. And I was like, I have a 3-month-old baby, but okay, I'll say yes.
There you go.
And so I did it. And I literally just like built it overnight and I posted on Instagram. I said, who wants to show up and do the thing? We're doing a thing. And overnight
Yes.
it filled up and we did it. And I never looked back, and COVID moved us virtually. And now we're reaching people in other parts of the world. Like we have people
Yeah.
like in other countries joining at like 3 a.m. It's insane. But I similar to her structure, like I always give her the credit because it was like we needed education and we needed support and we needed a community, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm very, very particular about the experts I have. I vet them very hard. If they say
Mm.
one thing that I'm like, nope, you're out. Like I'm very protective over the people in our community because I need to know that they have a safe place and that
Mm-hmm.
the education they're getting is it aligned with the values that I believe in, which is transparency, openness, empowerment,
Yeah.
no shame, like no secrets. Like that's just
Mm-mm.
not what we stand for. Although you can come to me and have shame and think that it should be a secret, that we will meet you where you are. But my goal is to help you lift the shame. My goal is to help you be empowered, to help your children be empowered to tell their story and to be
Mm.
prideful and to be proud. My daughter is very proud to talk about it. It's pretty cute. Which is what led us to the kids book that I wrote.
Yes.
The story that
Yes.
her and I came up together about a dinosaur, a T-Rex mama and a Brontosaurus egg that she hatches. And it was like because I started reading all the books to her about like the doctor and the mommy and the daddy were really sad and like they needed a special gift, and she was like, this is dumb. She was like, I don't want to hear about doctors and like special gifts and stuff. And I was like, and she was so into it. She was obsessed with dinosaurs.
I
I
love
was
it.
like, all right, I'm just gonna make up my own story. And so we would change it every night and we'd switch it up, And not that those books are dumb. Some kids love them. It's just my daughter was just like, I don't want to. She's
No,
never.
they're great.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
wanted
exactly.
books about animals. She was like, I don't want people books. I was like, okay.
I don't want people books.
Yeah, anytime I'd buy a book with like kids or people, she was like, no, this is boring. And I'm like, okay. She's very particular about her interests. And so we kept telling the story. And one day I shared it on Instagram, our little dinosaur story. And a editor reached out to me. She goes, I think you should make a book. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I'll help you. So she helped me put together like a pitch, like, what do you call it? Kit or whatever.
Yeah.
And we started pitching publishers, and it took me a year. Oh my God. I got turned down left and right. And I even remember talking to this one like celebrity publisher. It was like a big deal that I got this intro. And she
Yeah.
was, this story is so good. She was like, it's really good. She said, the problem is it doesn't apply to everyone. And I said, that's the point.
Yes.
Right? That's the whole point. That's what you're missing. But caveat, it does apply to everyone because my kid is growing up with your kid. And I need to know that your kid is aware of families like this so that they can all be treated equally. So like, yes, it does actually apply to everyone. So
I really love that.
Right?
I love that.
Back, and I was like, okay, maybe I made some tweaks to my story to make it more like any kid can read this book and like think it's funny and cute, but also get a message from it.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then I got a new publisher. I literally, the first phone call, she's like, I want to do it. I was like, okay. She's like, do you need to think about it? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I just had this connection with her. And so it's the first like professionally published kids book about this. Everyone else has done it independently because no publisher would take them because it's just, like I said, too niche, but it's not too niche.
Exactly. I was going to say, how can growing a family be niche, period? Like,
Right.
right. It's all, I don't think we've said the name of the book. It's called Our Hearts Match.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yes, exactly to your point. Your kid is growing up with my kid, and
Right.
everybody needs to know, I think going back to what you said, right, from the very beginning, you growing up in small town, you kind of only saw this like one particular like nuclear
Right.
family type.
Right.
That is not the case
Right.
for the vast majority of the world.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
really.
Right.
And just because it doesn't quote unquote apply to me, meaning I can't see myself in that book, doesn't mean that there aren't other people that are like that or other people that I'm going to meet that are like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool to hear from families, like traditional families, I don't know what else to call them.
Yeah.
Um, when they write a review and they're like, "I'm so glad that I read this to my kids." Like they now we're
Yeah.
having these conversations. I never would have had these conversations otherwise because it wasn't my story to tell. But it's like
Yeah.
the books about kids in wheelchairs aren't just for the kids in wheelchairs. Like
Sure.
they're for all kids, right? So it's like, well, this is no different. This is no different.
Sure. Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
diversity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're so right. I always say I feel like adults we make things way more complicated than they need to be, and the kids
Yeah,
are just, like they really are just like, no, it just is what it is.
right.
To
Yeah.
Flo's point, like I want to see animals. So the end. Like
Yes.
make me a book. Like, come on.
Yeah, they're true. They're true. And kids, like they're ready. Like kids, parents are so afraid to talk to their kids. They're ready. Like they take things as they are. They don't have these preconceived notions. We're the ones with that shit. So if
Yeah.
you tell them this is another way to make a family, they go, "Oh, okay, cool.
Great.
Yeah, great. Yeah." And that's how we
So
change the world, right? I mean,
that's exactly how we change the world. Exactly. Yes. So going off of that, I love that you've said, she is so proud of who she is, and you've mentioned how you have a lot of donor conceived persons come to your groups and you get that perspective and things like that. As a parent, and then also as a facilitator, how do you kind of navigate those conversations with her, maybe those conversations with your family, people, just kind of how you navigate the world with just that?
yes, it takes a lot of practice, is what I will say.
Mm.
Because the first probably 400 times I tried to talk to my daughter, I was like, "Blah, blah, blah," you
Oh,
know,
sure. Yeah.
um, and crying and just not okay. But that's why I started when she was 1 day old, because she doesn't remember. She didn't know what I was saying. And I just
Yeah.
find different things. I bought all the books. I have every single book out there, literally. And I learned from some things that I did that I probably talked about it too much because my daughter said enough about the eggs. Okay, I get it. If I have questions, I'll ask you, Mama. I understand. Can we do some other books? Can we talk about other stuff? And I'm like, yeah, sorry. Because I'd even try to
Sorry.
weave it into like stories, like, oh, but this mama had to like do it different, and then her kid, and she's like, you're trying to do it again. Um, so
She
anyway, so
keeps you honest.
it does. But I'll say with my son, who's 2 now, I won't say rarely, I talk about it with him. He's still learning to speak. We just found out he has a hearing issue that he's going to be okay. It's like, it's fixable, but he's not talking yet. And so I'll say to him, like, it was a different person's egg, but you were in mama's tummy. Here's a picture, and like we have
Yeah.
obviously the books and stuff, but nowhere near. It's very different experience than with my daughter that I was just like, you got to know this. You can't forget it. I got to tell you every day. I was like,
Sure.
not at all. Because they tell you like early and often.
Yeah.
Um, and often to me, it was like every day, all day. So now we talk about it more casually, and I find ways to talk about the similarities that she has to her donor, or just like genetic traits that like maybe we don't know where she got it from. We'll say, oh, I wonder, maybe that's from the egg donor.
Yeah.
Shannon is her name. And so, it's just very like open. And when it comes to family and friends, I think that was equally as hard as telling my
Mhm.
child the first time. because I am so open about it, but like talking about it face to face with someone who may say something that's triggering makes it
Mm,
even harder, when they might
yeah.
say, like, I'll never forget this one very close friend of mine. 3 different occasions, she would call the donor the mom. She said, "Well, does the mom have, I don't know, blonde hair or whatever?" And I
Mhm.
said,
Mhm.
"No, no, no, not the mom." And she would say, "Oh, sorry, you know what I mean." I'm like, "No, no, no. I need you to understand that language is important. Like
Yeah.
I do know what you mean, but like that's not those aren't the words that we use."
Yeah, we're
And
not gonna let this one slide. Like, I
right,
really
right,
need for you to hear this.
right.
Yeah.
And so like by the third time, she was like, "I'm so sorry." She's like, "I'm so sorry. I don't know why I keep doing this." She was like, please promise me that you'll always call me out." Like, because I know she loves me and I know she knows that I'm the mom, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason in her brain, because it hasn't been rewired yet, like genetics equal that, right? So
Uh-huh.
like I give her some grace because I understand that she's coming to the table with like what she was given, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's hard when you're grieving to be hit with that shit because it's like, ugh, you just stabbed me in the heart. Like my biggest
Mm.
worry and fear, you just gave it to me straight. Um,
Yeah.
that's why I tell people, like, start with your safe people, and your safe people aren't always who you think they are. They're a lot of times they're strangers. They're people that, like me, that have gone through it. And start
Mm.
like practicing with those people before you move on to the people that you're like, I don't know, like if they're really going to get this, and just be
Mhm.
prepared with some like almost like an elevator pitch,
Yeah.
and then share resources. Like I have some like I have a few people that will follow me that are like the sister of a woman who's conceiving via donor eggs, or the mom of a woman who's conceiving. And
Mhm.
they'll say, "You've helped me so much to support my daughter better, to support my
Yeah.
sister better." And I
Yeah.
always say, "You're a fucking good damn mother, or
Yeah.
sister. Like, the fact that you're doing this, like you're going out of your way, like that's the way it should be. That's the support we all need."
Yes. Well, and again, to your point, having those people, like you said, I shouldn't say go out of their way, but take the time to learn and say things like, please correct me, right? Know
Right,
better, do better. And, but you don't know what you don't know. And so the
right,
fact that, again, from what it was 10 years ago to now being able to have these resources to learning things like you don't say mom, you say donor, or if your person has a different word that they're comfortable with,
right,
and learning what it
right,
means to respect the, DCP, donor conceived person community, and what that looks like. And, just
right,
all of those things like that. It's amazing whenever people take the time to learn.
right, right. And
Yeah.
the terminology stuff that evolves too. Like
Oh gosh. Yeah.
it's so much, and it's all going to be based on what my kids feel. At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
if they want to refer to her as their genetic mother, like I support that. Because
Yeah.
scientifically that's true. That is true. She's I wouldn't say mom because to me mom is like an acting, loving, present person, right?
Yeah. Mom's the one who gets the band-aids. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Mom who's not sleeping at night. I love the best.
Yes. Yes.
Right, right, right. So yeah, so I think it's just being open to the evolution of what your child's journey is, right? And
Yeah.
making a safe place for them to feel and say whatever they need, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and you can't get to that place without working through your own shit, right? You can't
Yeah.
support your child until you've faced those triggers and the grief and the trauma yourself. And I'm not going to say you're ever going to be fully healed. I mean, I think this is just something you learn to live alongside. But with the right support and education and time, you
Mhm.
can get to a place where it feels very comfortable to talk about.
Mm. I love that. Going with that, and we've touched on it a lot, but being being faced with that decision of, okay, hey, this is how this path of egg donation is going to be how, you become a parent. What would maybe you say to those who are just struggling with
Yeah.
that idea and thinking about all of these aspects? Like you said, just genetic grief and thinking about having to talk to families about this and thinking about, I mean, gosh, going and looking at your partner and exactly like what your husband said, I married you, I want to have a baby with you, and navigating what it, first of all, what it is as a woman to hear that, and then
Yeah.
also wanting to, support your spouse while you have nothing else to give in that moment. I mean, there's so much. What would you say to, and I mean, I know there's so much you can say. You
So
have an
much.
entire support group about it, right? But
Yeah.
maybe what are kind of those initial steps, I guess, as someone is kind of faced with that and struggling with this shift?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is find your safe people. Find your
Mhm.
safe people
Mhm.
and start talking about it because
Yeah.
the feelings have to come out. They have to. You can't just push them down. It's just that's not
Mhm.
gonna be
Mhm.
good for anybody.
Yeah.
And start there. It does, and again, your safe person might not be your mom or your sister or your best friend, and that's okay. But you got to find
Mhm.
who those people are that you can authentically, vulnerably say, unfiltered, all the things you need to say.
Mhm.
Hence Infertility Unfiltered, because we literally, I say, we meet you where you are. You can
Mhm.
say you're mad at the world. You can say that you hate your sister right now because she got pregnant by accident. You can say that you are anything. You can say anything.
Yeah.
I just tell people, just show up. All I need you to do is show up. You can be in bed. You can be on your pillow. You can have no pants on. You can be whatever
Love
you
it.
need to be. Just show up. Just like I did.
Yeah.
I showed up those times. I'm like, just be here and we've got you.
Mhm. Yeah.
To me, that's the key to everything, is just finding the right support system. Don't try to do this alone like I did. It doesn't work. It's impossible.
Mm.
It's literally
Mhm.
impossible. And I think the other thing is just like, know that you're going to be okay. Like, you know,
Mm.
I think people just get so worried in the what ifs and the fears and just what could the future hold. But just know that, like, when you get there, you'll have the tools you need to handle that moment.
Mm.
And it's all going to be okay. You're going to be okay. No matter what happens, you're going to be okay.
I love that. That's beautiful. I think it's just the greatest way to sum it up. You're going to be okay. Whatever
You're,
okay looks like,
yeah.
you're going to be okay.
And if you need
Yeah.
somebody to hold you, I've got you. Like, I will hold you. Like, just DM me.
Yes.
Everyone knows my DMs are always open. I always respond. Sometimes it takes me a while. Um,
Sure.
I just give a voice message, in the car, because I'm like, I need to just get this to you. But like, I can be your safe person. Like, you just message me and I will talk you off the ledge. I've been in many bathrooms with many women over DM.
I love
Um,
it.
Many cars crying, like, I'm here. If you don't have anyone
Mm.
else, you have me. So you are not alone.
That's beautiful. And no one should be alone. And I think that's one of the greatest things about this is that you're not alone. And
Yeah,
what a show of how this is truly a community that is here and ready to support.
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. So for those who are looking for the community, we're going to have your links in show notes, but you can go to infertilityunfiltered.com, but you can also go to expectinganything.com. And that is specifically for egg donation and just resources around what it is to use a donor. Um, One last question. And it's a fun one. It's a fun
Okay,
one.
okay.
For anyone who knows me, and you have seen me just sipping the whole way through, but coffee and I have a very codependent relationship, and I just, we can't start or get through the day without
I'm
each
with
other.
you. I have my Dunkin' right here.
Yeah,
With
there you go. Yes, exactly.
not
So
sponsored.
I always like, not sponsored, yes. Although hit me up if you need to.
Right.
I always like to ask, what filled your cup today? Literally or figuratively, what has been the thing that has filled your cup?
Um, I mean, it's only noon, but I would say, I mean, this conversation, honestly,
Hmm.
knowing that maybe I'm reaching at least one other person that needed to know that they'd be okay. It's
Yeah.
it's truly like, I like I said, everything's for you. Like, this was for me to do this. Like, this was the purpose that I made from
Hmm.
this. And so knowing that, like, I could possibly have, like, given someone hope, like that
Yeah.
fills my cup for sure.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And again, I mean, so grateful to you that you have chosen to take trauma and tragedy, find the beauty in that, and then pay it forward and be there to support others so that they weren't having your experience that you had of that loneliness and heartbreak, and instead it's this community. Gosh, I mean, just amazing. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. And yes, show notes, go check out Infertility Unfiltered and Expecting Anything. Thank you so much, Victoria.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Me, You, and Who. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed our discussion today. As we wrap, we would like to remind you of some of the ways that you can stay connected with us and be part of the Me, You, and Who podcast community. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode and can stay up to date with our latest content. But that's not all. We also have an exciting YouTube channel where we share some bonus content, behind the scenes glimpses, and video versions of our episodes. Head over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button there as well. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the new episodes go live. And for more exclusive updates, engaging discussions, and a chance to connect with fellow listeners. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Create a Happy Family. If you're interested in finding out more about creating a happy family, please visit us at www.createahappyfamily.com. Thank you again for being part of the Me, You, and Who community. Your support means the world to us. I can't wait for you to join us next time as we continue to share stories and journeys of creating happy families.